Hello class, today we're dealing with research and thumbnailing, and the main thing to think about in all of this is research. Thumbnailing is secondary in the hierarchy. However, it is equally important when it comes to the finished piece, but research and being able to dig into a job is of utmost importance. Today we're going to be dealing with those things that are, we get the job and we get the final size, the ratio, the orientation, whether it's horizontal or vertical, and the timeline when the client wants it. And we try to deliver on time. So we first find out the ratio, and here I've chosen a 10 by 15 just to be arbitrary, and that ratio is a 1 to 1.5. So no matter what size I make, as long as 1 to 1.5 is my sketch, I'm in good shape. I can also use a proportion wheel, and I'll find out the actual number of inches that I have to start with, and then the optimal size of my sketches, and I can find a ratio that way too. These proportion scales are available at most art supply stores. I then will cut out a box that is similar in size, ratio-wise. And as you can see, these are well used. It's a stiff piece of index card, and I'll create these little flipboards of initial sketches. These are really tiny drawings, as you can see by the size of my meaty hand. So here's a piece of cardstock. It's index stock, very stiff paper. You can use the stuff you get with shirts, or other I think even printer paper comes with a stiff card sometimes to keep it stiff. And I just draw that box over and over again on another sheet of paper. Of course, here you see it all on a whiteboard, but that's just for this lecture. And I can repeat this box numerous times for numerous pages, 50 little drawings. And remove it. It goes someplace safe, and I begin sketching. Now, I'm just doing very little doodles here, but I'd expect you to take more time with your work. But I'm just trying to show how I'm breaking up these same spaces, these same ratioed boxes with different designs. I have no idea what I'm drawing here. I'm just kind of breaking up space visually. And I'm squinting to just get these really basic large areas understood. If it looks good when you squint as far as the shading goes, then it will look good most likely as a finished piece with full detail, if you keep your big picture idea in the forefront. And I'm going to speed ahead here, and hopefully it will. Here, I'm using a little technique, which is the alphabet. Here, as you can see, the A in the middle bottom there. I use the alphabet and letters broken up to give me basic shapes to work with. So then ideas, word association. I use the encyclopedia, the thesaurus, the dictionary, and online searches of words. It's a way to spark your brain. I have a massive library. I have books of all types, all subjects, and it's floor to ceiling. These are just a fraction of the books that I have in my studio. So, as you can see, everything from children's books to books about illustration, sketchbooks, old catalogs, anything of interest. Old books. I find these a treasure. They're falling apart. They're usually very cheap at library sales, and they are usually a plethora of imagery that is out of copyright for the most part. This particular book was published in 1918, and it's got some great images that I've never seen of the Great War, as they called it then. This book is water damaged, severely water damaged. It is a book of collected Punch cartoons given to me by a friend who owns the full set. But this one was so damaged that it didn't belong in the set, and he had a duplicate. So just beautiful drawings. I see how there's great ways of breaking up the space. Beautiful work in light and dark. So great to have as a resource. Reference books. Field Guide to Insects. Well, if you're making monsters or sci-fi, insects are a great thing to look at. If you're creating new machinery, insects are great to look at. South Pacific. Now these are New Guinea tribes, Hawaii, Tahiti, and it's just different ways of looking at the world, different ways of sailing, and different ways of making food. As you can see, the sails on this boat, I mean, they're just gorgeous. I wouldn't think to pull that out of my head. Steam locomotives are a great little resource on creating robots and well, steampunk items, of course, but the design, trying to deal with mass and streamlining. Books on history. These are 1917 Russia. Just images that we don't see every day, but are available in reference books. And I will just put these on the shelf, and if I'm looking for crowds, I'm looking for ways of dress in the winter or things like that, I'll pull out this book and flip through and see what inspires me. Reference books. The thesaurus is a major one. I do word association, rhyming dictionaries also. What's this? Well, this is an old encyclopedia from probably the 50s. Or no, I think it's the 30s perhaps. But I use these just to find a different way of looking at it, and also these old reference books make associations that I don't normally make. And here's my morgue file. I have 4 file drawers here, and they are just chock full of stuff. And these are images pulled from old magazines, books that are torn apart. This one happens to be on the medieval times, and there's some pictures from Smithsonian, from old National Geographics, other texts that have since gone by the wayside. I used to get every magazine that any of my relatives were throwing out. I would take them and I would tear them up, and here we have fashion from the 80s, from the 90s, cavemen. There's one back there that says Einstein. People fat, people homeless, people humorous, people Japan. It makes sense to have these sort of morgue files, especially like this one is a group of files that are all related, but not really. These are dealing with toys. But let's say the job is about space or robotics. I would go through this and find pieces that could inspire me along that subject. And I'm being inspired. I'm not ripping them off. I'm looking at them as reference. I'm looking at them as springboards to take me someplace else. Some of these are not necessarily relative to the project. So now I move on to Sci-Fi Robots. Okay, robots. What do I have in here? There's a mechanical mouse. There's robots from way back. How did people think about them in the 1930s, in the 1920s? There's Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. Oh, it's a crane, a bucket crane. Well, that's very robotic. Here's a fake arm. Mannequins and dummies and robotic 3D viewing and all kinds of. Here's bugs, locomotion. All this is used to springboard my own ideas about what I would include in what I understand to be a robot. Now, where's that robot going? Well, he's going possibly into outer space. So I want to pull references that have to deal with space. And these go way back Again, from magazines that I've torn up that are dealing with science fiction, science. Oftentimes they are Newsweek or Popular Mechanics. Here's Spy Magazine. That hasn't been done. They went under in the 80s. So, Meteors. Well, Sci-Fi. Here's another one. It's not quite science. It's not quite fiction. It's sci-fi. And there's all kinds of really neat imagery in there. And I won't necessarily find these on a Google search. Some of these items have never really been digitized because the magazines have long since gone out of publication. And it takes a certain type of person to digitize imagery out of an old magazine. So I will go through these. I will pull images that I believe are inspirational, and I will try to internalize those and synthesize those into my sketches. So that's your influence. Now, resources. You need many resources in order to create. So,